Hi, everyone. It's iBookBinding's Live. Today, our guest is Lori Sauer. Hello, Lori. Nice to have you here.
Hello.
As usually, my co-host is Pavel Varonin. He joins us from Serbia, from Belgrade. Hi, Pavel.
Hi.
And I'm Stepan Chizhov. I'm in Windsor, England. So today we will talk, I think, mostly about one binding, about the book Lori recently bound for the one of the shortlisted books of the 2023 Booker Prize. So, yeah, thank you for being here, Lori.
Well, thank you for asking.
It has been some time since we had you on our podcast. It wasn't live stream yet, and we discussed something pretty similar as well. I guess.
I think there was a one with my Binding Redefined program.
Binding Redefined, yeah, definitely that was it.
And there may have been another Booker some years back. I'm not sure.
Yeah. it goes for some time already. We're losing that a bit here on this side of podcast and live stream. So anyway, we have some people watching already, and if you are willing to tell us from where you are joining us, from which country, from which town, city, locality, place, please tell us. It's always interesting to know from where people are watching and talking to us. Also, if you have any questions about this binding or maybe bookbinding in general, please post them and we'll pass them to Lori, and we'll see if it's possible to answer your questions. So that's how it usually goes. We have some links in the description, some pretty useful links. First, links to Lori's website and Instagram, and then also some links to our social accounts as well. And please consider supporting us on Patreon. There is a link to Patreon there. We use the money that we get from Patreon to support our live streams, research work, editing if needed, and other stuff. So that's pretty important to us. We have a couple of comments already. So Victoria Carruthers, hi everyone, USA, Massachusetts. Terry Power, hi folks from Chile, Wisconsin. Yeah, maybe even windy as well. Yeah, it's not so warm in England as well. But yeah, no. I guess not as chilly as in Wisconsin. So let's start from the beginning. How did you find out that you'll be making one of the bindings for the shortlisted books, and how did you find out which of the books you are going to bind?
Well, we find out because we're asked in the spring, quite a long way before the announcement of the long list, if we're interested in doing one. The organizer, Angela James, always sends out an email to the fellows in Designer Bookbinders, and we put our name in if we're interested, and then it usually goes that we can only do one every other year, not consecutive years, so everybody has a chance. And then she decides which 6.
Yeah.
I don't know if she puts names in a hat. I have no idea. And she lets us know, and then we're given the date of the long list announcement, the short list announcement, date of the presentation, the prize ceremony, and all of that. And then we get information from Booker Foundation. There's the people behind the scenes there who also contact us. Anyway, from the long list announcement, I always look at it and go through and read a synopsis of the books. If there's anything there that looks interesting or appealing, for lots of reasons. It could be the genre, it could be the subject, it could be somebody I've read a lot of before or know of whose writing I like, and then I will then read 2 or 3 of them, and if there's one there that I really like, then we can put that request in to Angela, of a preference for a book if it gets shortlisted.
Yeah.
So it's hedging your bets against the shortlist.
It's a bit of a lottery.
It is a bit. I've done this every time I've done one, and every time I've been right, it's been shortlisted. So
Good.
yeah, I like to be prepared. I know some people wait till right up until the shortlist is announced and get what they're given, and it's a challenge, their kind of challenge. That's not my kind of challenge. So I'd like to have read it and thought about it a bit, and yeah, so but I don't know until the shortlist is announced if I do have that book, but at least I've already read it and I don't have to take that time out for reading.
We've talked quite a lot about these kind of commissions, and I still don't quite understand what are the unwritten rules. I mean, where on the spectrum of your freedom is this commission? Because sometimes you can do whatever you want. Sometimes you should do this, like it should be leather, for example. I don't know. And sometimes you sort of can do whatever you want, but there are some unwritten rules. So what kind of binding can you actually make?
Anything, as far as I'm concerned. We aren't given any rules. It is just do what you want. There aren't any restrictions as far as design or structure. I think that the feeling is by the time you've become a fellow that you'll make a informed choice and something suitable, not be too wacky. Not that anybody's that wacky, but yeah. So it's very, very open. I tend to do a lot of experimental stuff for my Booker bindings. I don't know why. Maybe that's part of my challenge. I'll try new things that I haven't tried before. Keep your fingers crossed, it'll work. Yeah, but
so it's basically a dream job, well, safe for the timing, because what it's like 3 weeks, right?
Sometimes this last year we had a long time, comparatively long time, but sometimes it's been about 3.5 to 4 weeks. Yeah, but it was a luxury this year, and we didn't know that when we signed up in the spring how long we were going to have.
So you never know how much time they'll give you.
No, we assume it's about a month.
Yeah,
because usually the short list is announced and a month later they do the prize, and this time it was almost a 2-month gap.
Yeah,
and I've no idea why it got, probably something to do because it was a new venue this year where they did the ceremony prize giving, and it might have been to do with booking a place and getting in there on time.
Yeah, so some admin stuff. Pasha, maybe you'll show some of the photos.
So this is the name of the book.
This Other Eden is the title. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is another photo when the title of the book is in focus. But anyway,
yeah, one's in front, one's in back. Focus.
I like the lighting in the photos. Are these the official photos of the binding?
These are the official ones. Yeah. That last one was a little bit overexposed, but never mind. But these are the ones they took them, because what was different this year with Booker is that they wrote to us and asked us to take photographs as we made the book. This is the first time they've ever did this, so that they would have a series of how it all went together. And then they also gave us a questionnaire, same questions to everybody about making and the challenges and etc. And then they said they wanted on their social media week before the announcement of the winner to start posting some pictures and a little bit of our experience of making the book. So that was great because they've always been taking a pretty big back seat when it comes to the bindings, of not featuring them very much. But this year they've really changed with their marketing, and it's been lovely.
Interesting. We have another comment, another location. Marta Vertecki. Hi everyone from Cologne, Germany. Nice to have you here, Marta. Again, I'll ask our viewers if you have any questions, please post them, and we'll pass them to Lori, and we'll see how it goes. So, with what should we start? With the technique or with the idea? Pasha, what do you think?
I'd like to hear about the inspiration, because technique is also very interesting, because I have no idea how this was made. I look at it and I'm blanking.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
can you first tell us why it looks the way it looks?
Okay. So when I was thinking about this particular novel, and I read the novel, took notes on that. I read some interviews with the author about his approach to it, what he did, his connection to the story, because it's based on a real story. It's a fiction. It's, what do you call it? Faction. Real events, but he fictionalized it all. And the thing that stuck out in my mind, he said when he was writing it, that he wrote it on Post-it notes. And so he writes his little ideas on Post-it notes and sticks them up all over his wall. And then he starts to collate everything and draw it together and bring it together. So my instant thought for the binding was to do this structure that's in the little squares, like the information on each little bit. And it's called a pixel binding, which is Ben Elbel's development. And he came and taught here about 18 months ago, taught this structure, which I really like. They're beautiful to handle because of the way they open. They're very supple because the boards move.
So sorry to interrupt you, but one of the comments that I got when I posted the announcement for our talk with the preview photo and everything, and one of the viewers commented, "Oh, it looks so much like this edition from Suntap editions." And they had a binding also made in this style, developed by Ben Elbel. And I was like, yeah, sure. Maybe it looks a bit like that because it's the same structure, which is open to everyone. Any person can, study it and use it. But from the design point of view, it's absolutely different thing. It uses the same structure, but
it's the same structure.
Yeah. But that's it.
But that's it. And anybody who uses a structure, then just they improvise, or they add a bit here, add a bit there, use a little bit of another structure.
Yeah.
Build it in. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's the same braidal structure. It's the same binding. No, it's not, because the structure is there, but everything else.
It's not really a brattle at all. It's
no. I mean, it's like to say, compare two different braidal bindings and say that they're the same, because they're braidal. But they may be, but they may be absolutely different at the same time.
Yeah, and this one, the thing I like, and I've done this on a couple of previous bindings from this one, is there's what I call an inner binding and an outer binding, and the inner binding is where you sew it, attach your end papers and sort of a semi-limp cover and the spine attachment. And that's all where the strength is on the inner binding. And then the pixel business, this one, is a case. You make it separately, like a case binding. And you stick the spine of the inner binding into this case of the...
What is not immediately obvious is how durable is it, because it's just cardboard and paper, and you move it and you close it and you open it, and...
It hasn't been around very long, so we don't know the answer to that. But my feeling is, I used a really nice handmade paper that will have good fold strength and flexibility in it. So I feel that it will be pretty durable. And my final book is also waxed and is sealed, and so it's I think quite strong. And it's really, I think, kind of finger proof and touch proof and all of that as well. I don't feel that it's the same when you have a leather binding, and sometimes you have to, okay, I've got to wash my hands and put on some gloves or something so you don't mark it. And this one, it's just so tactile when the book is finished. I have one I made earlier here. That's not great, but anyway, this is the one I first made, and it's paper as well.
Okay.
And this one is mainly decorated with graphite and some more kind of pressing on top to give it a different impressions on it. And then the graphite, it makes it a surface that I don't think it looks like leather, but a lot of people would look at it and say, what is this? They can't tell that it's paper.
It's also an interesting question, maybe for ground for some experimentation. As paper, many types of paper have distinct grain direction, but some types of paper do not have distinct grain direction. Maybe it will influence how this type of binding will survive depending on the type of paper you use from that point of view as well.
It might, but then I remember hearing the people who worked on when Florence flooded and all their books in the libraries were, and some of the people who were a generation or so above me went there in the 60s to help restore. And they said the bindings that came through in the best condition were the paper bindings.
Interesting.
The leather ones are bottom. The vellum ones, okay. And the paper survived the best. Good quality paper, you get it wet, it dries out, you can flatten it.
Yeah. If there is no mold, then
yeah.
So
Yeah.
a couple of more comments and questions. Timothy Bindery from Vietnam joined us. Hello from Vietnam. It's very nice to see you guys in this great talk. Great methods. The jig, the square jig is a nice one. And also we have a question from Terry Power. What paper, please? Can you tell us about the wax?
Oh
So,
God, that's
yeah.
Okay. Here it is. Here's a piece, an offcut. Now, I bought this paper at a conference from somebody who was selling off some.
You mean Society of Bookbinders conference?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
About 10, 12 years ago. I don't know.
Okay.
And
so it wouldn't help at all. Yeah.
So
no, and they were selling the ends at the end of the conference. They had these leftover ends they didn't want to take home.
Yeah.
So I bought this roll of 10 sheets, and I have no idea what it is.
Sorry, Terry, we cannot help you.
Sorry, I can't help you on that, but it's quite tough. It's nice. It's probably 130 grams, I would guess. One side is it might be a kind of pastel paper. One side, it doesn't, you can see the laid lines on one side. I can't with this light. And the other side, you can't see the laid lines of the paper. But I've no idea what it is.
And
I mean, I'd have to take it to somebody who knows their paper really well, and they could probably say, "Oh, yeah, that's that one."
Or one just have to experiment with different sort of paper and this type of binding. And that's it.
Oh, this one that we used on the learning book was color plan. So a non-expensive paper from Smith's here in the UK, and it worked okay. But you could use all sorts of different papers and build it up so that it's strong enough. You could use layers of Japanese tissues, for example, and get translucent layers going through and interesting things like that, because that would be super strong after you did 3 or 4 layers of tissue.
And also Terry asks about waxing the paper, if you can.
Oh, at the end, right after I did all of the decoration, which was multimedia. Yeah, I used an acrylic wax, and it's something that I buy from a supplier who's the people have just retired and closed up shop. And so I assume there's an equivalent you can buy out there, but I don't know
Yeah,
who
probably.
from. It just comes in a bottle and it's liquid, and you just put it on with a cotton rag and rub it around, and it dries really fast because it's acrylic, and then you buff it up.
I think there are photos that you sent of that process. Yeah. Let's see. Let me show. Could you, in the meantime, I have a question about the structure. So you showed how it moves in both directions, but when it's attached to the paper block, it's fixed in one direction. So
Yes. Yeah.
So so in one direction, the pixels are basically decorative. I mean, it could have been made out of vertical strips to do the same motion. And also, I wanted to ask you, would it make sense to make those squares even smaller? Would it give more flexibility?
Your first part, yes, is correct, that you could just use vertical strips, and there are people who've done bindings like that, and sometimes they sew them together or wire them together, so you get a flexible cover. This is just different because it's squares rather than long strips, and there's no reason that you couldn't make them smaller, bigger. I haven't gone there myself, but sure, why not? I don't think that you're ever going to get a horizontal flexibility from it. I mean, I'm bending this one now, and you can get a little bend the other direction, but it's not going to go very far. If you had a long landscape book, you'd be able to bend it more that way.
I think we discussed triangular shaped binding on our podcast with so it was Lucia Farias. We discussed triangular version of pixel, and she showed us. I'm not sure if it was pixel.
It was going
I think
in all
maybe it was some other similar articulated type of book cover, but still it had triangular shapes. And we'll post a video, and we'll post a link to a video, and if our viewers are interested, they can see how this sort of articulated cover with triangular shapes works in real time. So yeah, I'll post the link a bit later. Sorry about that. Yeah.
So what are we looking at here?
Okay, now is there any way you can point at things, or I can point at things?
Yeah. Where do you want me to point?
Okay, right where your little arrow is there. Okay, so that's where the inner binding attaches itself to the text block. It's set back from the normal hinge point, which is on the edge. So if you go off to the left, your normal hinging point would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is set back about 5 millimeters to there. And so you end up with this beautiful flat opening because of this. And this is something that Alan Terrell, the French binder, who makes lots of wooden boarded books, he developed this. And then Shun Evrard, who's a good chum of his, also uses this for a lot of her bindings. And Ben has seen this technique that they've used, and he has adapted it for this type of work. Now, I call it a setback hinge. I don't know if it has another name, but I've been using it on other bindings, and I really like it because I'm a big advocate of flat openings and no backing.
And also the line is very interesting and sinuous and both complicated and organic. It makes sense.
So the inside of the spine is Tyvek, dyed Tyvek. And I'm hoping readers know what Tyvek, viewers know what Tyvek is.
Well, if they don't know, they can Google it, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So that's dyed with acrylic ink. so that you can, you know, have something decorative on the inside of the spine. And then the text block itself is lined with, trying to think, that is, I think, fray knot, dyed fray knot to blend in with your color scheme. And the other fun thing about this is that the headband is stuck to the cover rather than to the book, which I quite like. Just kind of flips the conventional thinking about where the headband's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this inner binding here, where your arrow is.
Yeah, we can see
Yeah, that's
yeah.
suede. That has been pressed with lines. It's taking the impression of the pixels as well, but before I put the pixel case on it, I had pressed the suede with lines and then fixed it so the lines stay there, so you can't rub them off, and then the squares are on top of it, so you get this nice dual kind of blind patterning going on the suede. And the suede is backed on the towards the book with decorated paper, another red paper.
Suede is an interesting material for something tactile. I mean, it feels nice, but it also you can leave traces so easily of it. But it makes sense to use it not on the outside, but on the inside. And you say you fix it. You mean you use you spray it with something?
Spray fix, yeah, with spray.
Yeah, and then you no longer leave like fingerprints all over it.
It will make a little bit, but not as much as if it was untouched. But what it retains is the initial impression that I gave it, which is what I'm after.
A very subtle effect, and I like how a photograph was posed to just show off that bit of your work.
Yeah, it's very low key.
Before we move away from endbands completely, we have well, firstly, I always love to to focus on endbands because it's one of my favorite parts of the binding, of any binding somehow. But also Timothy Bindery has a question. Is there any special reason you put the endbands on the cover but not on the book spine? You told that, well, to have it a bit differently, but was there any other specific reason for that besides that?
It's to do with this setback hinge that's the 5 millimeters away from the corner of the text block.
Yeah.
And if you put, I think that if you stuck the headband onto the text block, and then it would flex inwards with the text block, it would stiffen it up a little bit, not that much, but you'd also have to deal with what's going on down in the spine, because you can see down the spine quite a ways.
Yeah.
So you would have to do some more camouflaging, I suppose, to make it look really clean and sharp.
Okay.
And also you'd end up with the edge of the headbands would show at the, I wish I had a pointer, would show at a place where the ends might look a little bit unattractive. And by sticking it on the book itself, it all makes one clean shape.
Okay.
That's my answer.
And it fulfills its function, so it prevents anything from getting into the hole of the book when the book is closed.
Yeah.
So if it fulfills its function, why not?
When it's closed, you can't tell that it's not on the text block.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gives you that strength to pull, if you were going to pull it off a shelf, which is why they're there anyway. So it kind of protects the text. Yeah.
And the lines you pressed into the suede, you mean those?
The horizontal ones.
The horizontal ones.
Yeah. And the darker bits are when I put on a little bit too much spray fix. But I thought that was fine. It worked.
Can we perhaps talk about the technique of painting or what?
Yeah, sure. If you go back, there's one picture when it's just kind of plain without any of this. The one before this, maybe?
Yeah.
That one. Okay. This is the whole thing, my 3 panels attached. So I have a front, back panel, and a spine piece where you can see the spine is down the middle of that one. So I had that, and I started off, I had no clear idea of what was going to happen to this cover. I knew the mood that I wanted to make it. Just briefly to say that the novel is set on a rocky island off the coast of New England in America in the Atlantic Ocean. And there's lots of imagery of the sea and storms and rocks and granite and stuff like that. So I was trying to aim for a feel of that weather and mood. And I like using these guys, where have they gone? Pastels. The pastel sticks. And so I just started by rubbing on it, and I got that. And then this one after that with the white that's going across, that one, that's tissue that I started pasting on top. And I had no idea where this was going either. The yellow are leather scraps. The white is Japanese tissue. And I started then just building up with the pastels, with the tissue, and seeing where it went. I used colored tissue as well, because I have lots of little scraps of that. And I started adding those. If one area got a bit too dark or I didn't like where it was going, I just put another piece of white on top in order to give me a cleaner background again to start with. What I discovered with the pastels is as soon as you rub them, of course, they smear and they blend. And I didn't want it all smoky like that. I wanted to have more bits. Like, so you can see speckles in this one.
Yep.
Upper left there,
The
there's
left,
speckles. Yeah, so I would scrape the pastel onto the surface and it would leave like snow. And then I'd spray fix it so I couldn't rub them off anymore. So it has lots of layers of all this going on. And it turned out I don't do literal or pictorial designs. And this one turned out, when I was done, it looks like a landscape. But I had no intention of making a landscape. It just happened. And I was quite okay with that at the end. I said, that's fine. So yeah, I ended up with this bit on the front cover, which kind of looks like an island or a mountain.
Am I right in thinking about the process as papier-mâché?
Oh, I don't know that word.
It's a technique where layers of paper are put one on top of the other to create some sort of shape or form or 3D object. And toys were made with this technique. And
Well, you mean paper mache? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
yeah,
Papier-mâché.
he just pronounced it
sorry,
in French.
I just tried to butcher it. Yeah. Okay.
I suppose there's an element of that in there, but not to the point where with papier-mâché where you put on a lot and then it becomes stiff. You know, it's still thin and very flexible. But yes, that's going on, but only in bits. I haven't recovered the whole board. Only parts of it have the bits of tissue that I use paste and then stuck them on. And there's some stuff underneath, like if you can see down here, I'm pointing at my screen, that doesn't help. Will you see down there where it looks lumpy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I took a bunch of leather pieces that, like when you punch out leather, so you have like lots of little tiny, like confetti, like leather confetti. And I put that on the book. I PVA'd that on, and then I rubbed it down, and it didn't work. I didn't like it. So I just took a big piece of tissue and stuck it on top to cover up the individual lumpy bits. And so I ended up with that kind of rocky texture down there. And that worked. So it was really fun for me to do this one, because I haven't ever worked like this before on a cover, ever. And
I had a question related to this part of the process you just described, about mistakes and errors, and how do you deal with them. And sometimes mistakes can be fatal, I guess, if the structure is compromised or something like that. But here you described your process, and sometimes you took steps that you didn't like, and you continued to work on this design. How often do you decide that, well, I need to stop working on this cover, I need to start over again? What's your approach to that?
I keep working with something until it starts to ease into what I'm after. So I don't think of them as so much as errors and mistakes. It's just something that doesn't quite work the way I had hoped. It's not the look I'm after. On another book, it may be just fine, but this one, it wasn't really suiting my vague kind of picture in my head. And I always think there's a way to fix something, always. I never think things are irredeemable. Structurally, yes, sometimes if something breaks or rips or tears, you have to start over. But more often than not, you can work with what's happened, or I can work with what's happened and carry on.
And then it becomes part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, you didn't make a mock-up, you didn't have a sketch, you just started and finished it, and this is it.
Yeah. It surprised me, but there you go. And then the inside, which was still pretty much plain paper like that, I spent a lot of time thinking about, oh, what do I do? Do I decorate that as well? And finally I left it very, very plain. I just added some, you can't see it on this, but it has a very subtle sheen to it. And some years ago, I discovered these, which are like little oil things, different colors. And these come in different colors as well, metallic, non-metallic. And you use your finger in them, and then you rub it on, and you blend it, and you smear it about. And this has a lot of that on there. When I got to the end of all of my collaging and my layers and da-da-da, it wasn't holding together. So I took a dark blue or something from this, and I covered the whole surface, rubbed it, so it tied it all together. It just gave it an overall top layer.
So you use it like you use blush, finger and...
Yeah, it's kind of like, I suppose, with eyeshadow or something, you put your finger in and you rub it there. It's yeah. They're called rub-ons. So it's not a very inventive name. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a nice medium. It's a really nice medium, I think. So there's lots going on here, like where the yellow leather that I initially put on got kind of swallowed up with other stuff. So I just took a tiny bit of the gold one in here and just touched it on top of the yellow leather to lift it again. Yeah. And the inside, as I said, I think I took a silver or a white, and I just did a really low-key kind of covering on the inside of the board to leave it. I thought I had enough going on the outside without doing the inside. And then this panel, which is on top of my box, is one of the samples that I was making left over when I was testing out colors and collaging and stuff. And I looked at it and said, oh, that's kind of okay. So I made it as a title panel for the box.
That fits.
And the box itself, is it this is some paper, I assume? Yeah,
this is Tyvek that's dyed with acrylic paint.
So firstly, I got a question on Instagram, which is always fun because it's really hard to to catch them because they go the messages on Instagram go really fast by. And somebody asked, so what's the book we're discussing today? Because well, it is in the description on Facebook and the YouTube, but no information is there on Instagram. And it's this other Eden by Paul Harding, and the binding is made by our guest, and that's why we're discussing it. And that's a book that was one of the 6 shortlisted books of the Booker Prize in 2023. And today is the 3rd episode of our talks dedicated to Booker Prize 2023. We already had 2 talks, one with Mark Cockram and another with Tom McKeown. And also we have I wanted to tell everybody, to remind everybody, that we have some useful links in the description of our Facebook and YouTube streams, and you can see links. You can find links to Lori's website and Instagram there, and to our social accounts. Please subscribe, like, share, everything. Do that, please, especially during the live stream. It helps us quite a lot. And if you are ready to support us on Patreon, that would be also great. And we have a couple of more questions on YouTube as well. I'll read them, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe I will read one of them because and later we'll read another one. And firstly, Victoria Carruthers wrote, "What a lovely cover," and we definitely agree with that.
Thank you.
And it was I think she posted before we started discussing the process of making the cover, but anyway, it's a lovely cover, and especially as we know its story now, it's even more interesting. So Timothy Binder is switched to YouTube from Facebook. My next question is related to the inner hinge. Looks like you had sewn the end sheets. Is that correct? How did you connect and strengthen the hinge? I think you talked about it in the very beginning, but if you can add some more info about the end sheets and hinges and connections, everything.
Okay, if I've sewn them, I'm trying to think back on this. I don't have my notes in front of me. They are sewn on. The suede is lined. No, the suede goes from front to back.
Yeah, we can see that the black goes around the first
Yeah.
and the last signatures.
goes-
So yeah.
Yeah, you can see that's where the decorated end paper is hooked and sewn with the text block.
Yeah.
The white sheet stand. So that's how that one goes on. And then the suede cover wraps around the whole book from front to back.
Mhm.
So it's in the spine as well. And then it's laminated to the colored end paper
Mhm.
at that up till that 5 mil gap away from the
Yeah.
corner. There, yeah. So it's quite a tricky operation because you've got to position everything so that you can glue up the, just trying to think this back in my head, that you glue up the, not the suede side, you glue up the other paper. So you use like mask. I use washi tape because it's very low tack, and I put that on, and you glue up to the washi tape at 5 mil.
Mhm.
And then you have your suede wrapper, and you just kind of sandwich them together and smooth them down.
Yeah.
And then you trim everything to size afterwards.
And by the way, I checked Ben Elbel's website. Well, I checked the website of their project Bookbinding Out of the Box, and the latest tutorial they published was the wire edge binding with Daniel Kelm.
with Dan Kiln. Yeah.
And I think they published it during the bookbinding fair in Leiden this November. But yeah, there is no tutorial for Pixel yet. as
Not
far
yet.
as I
No,
see.
I would imagine that he'll do one, but
So
I
yeah,
haven't
at
asked.
some moment in the future, probably. So the only possibility to learn it is to visit the workshop at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also Timothy.
Or get in touch with me, if somebody wants to come. So
Yeah, definitely. But still, coming here from Vietnam is
tricky.
is an endeavor. Yeah, it's a whole adventure. So Timothy wrote, I just follow Lori's Instagram. So much wonderful sharing on the page. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, Lori has an inspiring Instagram.
Well, my Instagram account is, I don't post very often on it at all.
You don't have to post often to have to make it inspirational,
Okay, because I used more from this book simply because I was getting stuff from the Booker Foundation, already kind of lovely photographs. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, I'll just stick that on Instagram. But I often don't put the books that I'm working on. They don't get seen, and I don't know. I should probably do it.
Yeah, well, lots of people would be happy if you do that. Victoria also wrote, amazing how you create cover design as you go, very creative. And as I said, there was another question from Terry Power. Amazing that you can build your design on the cover without sketches or ? Brave. I'm not sure if it if it qualifies as a question. But okay, I saw the question mark and thought that was a question. But well, anyway.
It's kind of been a process of the years that I've been binding. And the confidence, is confidence the right word? I suppose familiarity with things and knowing what's going to happen, or not knowing, but at least you have a good idea, kind of educated background of what you can do with things. And I think as time has gone on, and years have gone by, that I just feel more confident to do this kind of thing and not worry too much about preciousness, or is it going to look right, or are other people going to like it, or does it fit in with kind of the convention of a full leather binding? I just, that stuff is now, it's just not very relevant anymore when I make something.
I think we also touched upon this question or issue before on our live stream, not only about experimenting and going with the flow with your designs, but also on working with the mistakes you made from the technical point of view. And quite often you can fix many of the mistakes, and quite often this process teaches you a lot about the structures, about the the limits of possible, and about your craft. And that's something that's pretty important. If you make a mistake, not to stop that at the same point, but try
don't throw it away, don't panic,
don't panic.
Think about it.
Try to think about it, try to experiment. Maybe it will be absolutely different binding from this points of time, and but it still can be something beautiful, something interesting, something experimental from design or structural point of view. I rarely comment on designs besides the fact that I will say, wow, it's beautiful, because I'm myself am not that person who is very design savvy or something. My designs are usually pretty straightforward. But experimentation with your mistakes and is an important part of any craft, I guess.
Yeah. And all of us approach these things differently. Some people like to have something laid out very precise and concrete, and they do loads and loads of sketches and planning. And I know binders who do that, and that's where they are with their work, and that's fine. they have a particular vision, and that's what they want to repeat in 3 dimensions. So they go that way. And I tend to have a rough idea of, like I say, a mood or an atmosphere, and I go about halfway. And normally I do a lot of sketching and colors, and I make mock-ups and models and things like that. But then as I work, stuff changes so quickly, and you do something, you think, okay, I'm going to do this technique, and then you look at it and you go, God, that's not what I thought it was going to do, but I like it anyway. So you may use it, you may not. Or I put it away. I have a box. When I do lots of this experimenting with stuff, the things that aren't working for that book, I just put them in a box. So then when I go to a future binding, I kind of rifle through and I say, oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Can I incorporate it on the next one? Because they're just things that please me.
Do you incorporate objects or ideas, or both?
Objects.
I mean, parts of experimental parts, some boards, or I don't know, some things that you made previously for different bindings. Or how does it work?
Not per se. No, I wouldn't say it's objects so much, but the ideas transfer from one to the next. But I think that's what your voice is as a maker. You know, the look that you have, that you can pick out somebody's work because they repeat motifs and themes that they like and that work. And I don't like to keep using one because it worked the last time. I hope that I can shake it up a bit and do something new.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about. So this is a relatively new structure for you, one of your first major experiments with this structure. And it's also a new technique of decoration that you basically invented on the spot. Yet still, what makes this a Lori Sauer book? What about this is purely you, or is there no such thing? Do you always start from scratch in this particular case?
I'm not sure I follow the question exactly. I don't know what makes this one of mine. I think that's probably a question better put to somebody else.
But when you look at it, do you see something that you thought about before? Something in the style, in the texture, in the color?
No, not with this one. Because most of my bindings are very minimal.
Yeah,
they're often white because I use vellum a lot, with very minimal decoration. They're very kind of understated, I think is a word. So I look at this and no, it's just something that I haven't done.
But do you want to try more of this in the future?
I don't know. We'll see what happens with my next book. Because we've got an exhibition coming up in the summer, and the text that I want to use, and I've already kind of thought of the cover that I want to put on, and it's I'll probably go back to the naked look. I think. Not sure, but we'll see.
So you mentioned that Ben Elbel came and taught at your place. What other workshops are you planning in near or relatively near future, like this year?
Yeah, I just got I have a list here. Some really good ones that I'm hoping I'll get more enrollment than I've had so far. I've got one next month with Teresa Wedermeyer from Germany, who's making this box that's like a capsule. You have a bottom and a top, and it's lined with leather. It's really beautiful. And then I've got Tina Nourier from Belgium, who's been with me twice before, who does this nice cutting method, and then she's making a really complicated double Jacob's ladder that goes, this revolving carousel book. Who else is coming here? I've got Kylie Lee, who's coming back to make, who's based in Switzerland, and she is doing books that are have three-dimensional pages so that you can mount stuff. So it's not exactly an album, but they're books with a thickness to them so that you can put, like, have a window frame around them and you can put things in them. And they look like great fun. Suzanne Schmolgruber's coming to do one of her favorite things, which is based on a board book, but they're articulated books so that when you open a page, you have things that move inside the pages. Rahel Scheifühler, another German binder, who's doing vellum piano hinged binding.
Okay.
And Nadine Werner, who's coming to do boxes, which is kind of her thing. So there, I'm glad I got that plug in, because my first class next month, I have enough people, but all the rest. So I'm just hoping I don't have to do what I've been having to do since COVID, which is cancel most of them. People haven't come back, which has been very sad. And, these are all kind of one-off classes with really interesting tutors who work so precisely and so beautifully. And my feeling with a lot of this, with my binding redefined, you learn a technique, but you also learn so much from that particular person, how they work, and all the tips and stuff that you get that apply to everything else, not just that subject that we're working on. And it's about taking these little bits, and what I've benefited so much from it because I've been doing it for a number of years. And so I learn all these tiny bits of techniques and I start putting them into one, which is great fun. Rather than just repeating exactly what they did. I said, oh yeah, but I can add a bit of that and add a bit of that and put it in. So yes, and then that runs me up until October of this year. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we hope there will be more people joining the classes, and
more people. I mean, I only need...
There is a link in the description. Yeah, everyone can check the website.
Yeah, I only need six people to make it viable because I don't get funding. They're all self-funded. I pay the tutors pretty well, I think, and pay all of their expenses and everything. And so I just need to get enough people to come so that I don't make money on these things. I just want to give the opportunity for people in the UK to benefit from European, sometimes American makers to come here and do stuff.
Yeah, and you have such a wide variety of different approaches represented by your tutors. That's quite amazing. And
they are a lot of, I admit they're a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit left field, which isn't for everybody, but they're still so interesting and have so many bits that you can extract from them to apply to something perhaps that's a little bit more conventional, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
It's just the exposure to new and different. Yeah.
I wanted to invite myself to your workshop for quite a long time. That's what I wanted to say. I think we discussed that some time ago. That when I was still planning to, we were still planning to move to England. I thought that I will be visiting different bookbinders and their workshops, and I don't know, making videos about that, workshop tours and whatever.
You're not very far away. So
yeah,
it's easy.
I just checked. It's like hour and a half drive or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the routine of all the admin stuff and everything that was happening around my business being moved from one country to another, and then renting a workshop and then making it livable, and that just takes a lot of time. And I hope in 2024 I will finally come to this my plan of visiting bookbinders on regular basis. Maybe
well, you're welcome. Yeah.
Maybe it would be possible for me to visit your workshop when this next class is happening. So maybe I'll be able to take some photos and make some videos when people are there studying. Maybe it will be also helpful for you as well.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. Yeah, everything's on my website, all the dates. So all you have to do is check on that. And
I'll check, and we will arrange everything then.
no, that'd be really good.
So we do not have any more questions yet. Well, from our viewers, maybe they will still post some. But Timothy Bindery wrote, "Thank you so much for your sharing, Lori. I had learned a lot, both structure and design of binding, design of the bindings. I had spent my time on learning structures, and now it's time to learn design." Yeah. That's
That's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
How do you learn design? That's another question that we often ask, and never once received a good list of instructions what to do to become good at design.
It's I started making things when I was 4 or 5, and I haven't stopped. I wouldn't call I was doing design then, but when you're putting stuff together and looking at materials and combining things and using your imagination. And then, I did more formal education in university in the arts. And so you get the academic side, and they show you, you do art history, and you look at everybody else, and you start trying to make sense of what they did and what's going on. And I think it's a long, gradual assimilation of lots of stimuli that filters through your own way of looking at things and your own way of wanting to then put something out there that you hope other people will also find pleasing and pleasant. And I'm not big on labeling things or saying it has to be, you look at a composition and you say, okay, the perspective has to go there and da-da-da-da-da. It's very instinctual with me, and how successful I am with it is for other people to decide, not me. But design is a tricky one. But there is good design and bad design. And when I hear people call themselves web designers, and you think, oh, they must have some good ideas. And then you go and look at what they've done, and you think, shit, that's not design. They've looked at some book that says you should do this. And so so the word gets thrown around a lot when it shouldn't be. That's one of my little bugbears.
Yeah.
But art and design is so hard to pin down and define. And you just keep working at it and keep experimenting. A lot of it's playful. It's not a great answer, but it's the best I can do, I'm afraid.
Well, still, it's one more answer that we can offer to our viewers, and they can watch all our other live streams with our creative guests who offer their versions of the answer.
There's the books out there that talk about design that I'm trying to think. They're sitting in the other room there. Paul Clay has one, Point, Line, and Plane. There's a couple other people who have these classic texts that are about design.
Like Bauhaus literature.
Well, his would have been. And so you could read those, but then it's how much can you apply to what you're doing? I don't know. They have solid foundations. Like if somebody goes in and they're teaching Art 101, and they say, okay, you take a circle and a pyramid and a line, and how do you keep reconfiguring them to do something? And I ran a class during COVID with the class that I couldn't see, my year-round class, and I did it on design. and it was really successful. I thought it turned out really well. And I started out with just basic shapes, and then in black and white, and then you have them add color, and then you have them blow it up, and then you have them shrink it, and then you have them cut it up and rearrange it. So all those kinds of things are a good foundation for taking shape and form and doing things with it and see what happens.
So you think it's still worth in our day and age to go and receive a formal design education, read the books of Eaton, Kandinsky, Clay, whatever, read textbooks? You still should do that, or is it just one way to get that?
There's not just one way, no. And they can't do any harm reading what these people have had to say, because they're good and they know what they're talking
in
about.
100 years, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm all for reading, but why?
I think having a history of things like that is very good. It gives you a foundation. It's when you know what's gone before, I think it just all adds into your own resources that you can pick and choose or throw away, or say, I'm not gonna read that person, they're full of some people don't need it at all. They can just go out there and they do these amazing things, and they don't know why. And as soon as people start asking them why, then they get confused and they can't do it anymore. It's very individual, I think. Super individual.
Talking about the things that changed during COVID, I remember that I don't remember with whom we talked about it, but the story was that during COVID there was no reception for the Booker Prize, and so the bookbinders didn't have a chance to present their bindings. So did it come back to the standard approach? Was there any sort of reception? Did you have a chance to meet the author of the book? How did it go from that side?
I think one year, God, did they cancel it completely? I can't remember exactly, but I know the one I did before this one, I did not meet the author because nobody could travel.
Yeah,
she was in New York, and it was on TV, but with the presenter there and somebody on that side of the room.
Yeah.
And nobody was getting close to each other, and they didn't have a dinner or anything. So that must have been in 2020.
probably.
And I don't know what came after that. I think it was 1 or 2 years that it was badly affected.
And what about this year?
This year is fine.
So
as normal.
business as usual.
Business as usual. We had a new venue on the Thames, and as usual. And the Booker is getting really good with their social media. Lots on Facebook, lots on Instagram, about the books, about the authors, about the back titles of the Booker, really promoting reading. They have a thing I see every Monday that says, what did you read this weekend? So they're really promoting reading and books and stuff. So they must have some new people behind the scenes who are doing that.
Good. Yeah, they've been all even sharing our stories on Instagram with the announcements of these talks. So
that's great. That's really good. Yeah.
So somebody is definitely working on social media.
Somebody's got keeping on top of all that and trying to integrate it and push it, and to have the books bindings pushed is nice, because even still this year, some of the authors weren't clear that they got to keep it. They said, "Oh, I get this," and you said, "Yeah, it's part of your prize." So,
Good.
By the way, are the authors that you see on these ceremonies, are they familiar with modern design binding?
On the whole, I'd say no. But they, the man I did this year, he was super enthusiastic about it, which was really nice, because sometimes they don't say anything. So okay, fine. But he was very appreciative.
Did you ever have any strange reactions to your bindings before?
Not to my face.
Okay.
This is Britain after all.
Yeah. Well, okay. At least,
But I thought,
yeah.
sorry.
Sorry. Please continue.
I was just going to say, so many of the authors I've done have been non-British for some odd reason. I don't know why.
And you always pick them up in advance.
Yeah, but I'm not choosing who they are. I'm choosing the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think we discussed so much stuff
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And both technical and visual and design wise, and also everything around it. So I think it was an interesting and educational and inspirational talk.
I hope so. I hope some people got something good from it and useful. And my links are there, as you said. So I've got my what I call my open studio classes that run from October to May every year in 2 venues. So if people are interested in, it's you come and you do whatever you want, from beginners through that. And then I've got the Binding Redefined, which are more specific, not always for experienced binders, but it usually helps if you've got a bit of experience with some of these topics. Otherwise you just say, what in the heck are they doing? So
yeah. And by the way, I invite all of our viewers, current viewers and future viewers, to check the Binding Redefined project just in general, and watch our video, our talk with Lori that we recorded several years ago, where we discussed Binding Redefined. It's a very interesting project, and something well, I think for any bookish person would be interesting to follow. So or maybe even take part in it.
Taking part would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because if they don't pick up and go, I'm gonna have to close it. If I can't get 6 people per class, which to me doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah.
Then I just can't run them. And it'd be sad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Victoria,
it might morph
sorry.
into something else, who knows.
Victoria posted it was interesting, useful, and very inspiring. So yeah, just confirming my interpretation of our talk.
Okay.
But I'm definitely biased. So yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thank you too once again for all the work that you do with iBookBinding and your huge range of topics that you cover from people all over the world and into all things book. And it's really fantastic that it's there, and that now with digital it's all recorded forever.
Yeah, that's our hope. That's one of our goals, to make it accessible
as a huge,
for as long as it's possible.
Resource. Yeah, huge resource for all sorts of things. It's really great.
So yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for being with us. There are some more things in the comments there. I will not read everything, but thank you everybody for staying with us, and join us next time. We do not have our next guest scheduled yet, but we'll find something interesting for you for sure. Just stay tuned, subscribe to our social accounts and to Lori's Instagram. I guess Instagram is not Facebook, probably. I think on Facebook it's more personal account, or is it? Am I right or wrong?
I have 2 Facebook accounts, one for work and one for other stuff.
So you can search the professional.
For the I think it's under Bookbinding or Binding Redefined on Facebook.
Yeah, Binding Redefined on Facebook. Just Google it and you'll find it.
Yeah.
And see you next time.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
I think so.